Hello, welcome to another episode of The Seven. I want to make a quick announcement here at the beginning and just let you know that you may have noticed I have skipped a couple of Fridays recently, and I've decided that I need to go down to every other week with this podcast. So, the episodes will be released every other Thursday. But I do want to let you know that I do have another podcast, which I've also been doing every week. And I'm going to be going down to every other week with that podcast as well. And they will be alternating. So that podcast is called Penetrate Radio. It's all about shadow alchemy and so you can listen to that podcast on the off weeks. So that podcast comes out on Friday mornings, and so you can, yeah, you can alternate if you want a podcast every week. Otherwise, I will see you here every other week to continue talking about magic and planetary magic, especially. So today, I want to talk about the solstice because here in the Northern Hemisphere, we have the summer solstice coming up. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, we have the winter solstice coming up, or you do. And I love the solstice for magic. And I'm also going to be talking about doing magic working with the sun because I haven't done an episode yet about the sun. And I'm just going to be honest, I feel like I neglect the sun a little bit in my own magical practice. I don't do as much work with the sun as I would like to. Um, but the sun is the center of our solar system, right? Everything literally revolves around the sun. And the sun is incredibly powerful. And what I love especially about the sun, in terms of, so a lot of people work with the sun for health, vitality, energy, but it's also great for abundance and really anything. Like it can burn anything away. Um, the sun creates all life on earth. It is the source of all life on earth. And most of the energy that we have here on earth comes from the sun. Of course, there is energy in the gravitational pull of the earth, and we have the molten rock in the core of the earth. So there's some energy, but the vast majority of the energy that we have here on earth comes from the sun. So it's what makes our climate the temperature that it is and habitable for life. At least it's a key ingredient. And so, in some sense, the sun is the ultimate source of life, energy, everything. And what I love about the sun, I started saying this before, now I'm now I'm circling back to it, is that it is a self regenerating, basically power plant, right? It's a fusion reactor. It's just constantly producing intense heat and light and all of that. And yes, the sun will eventually burn out, but there's intense longevity there, obviously, especially in relation to our lives. So the sun it's a star, it's our star. And we are always flying through space, just orbiting the sun. So the sun is a really powerful sort of primary source in our existence. And I think that it deserves great high honors for that. And I think that the solstice, therefore, to me is, for me as a practicing magician who works with planetary magic, I see the solstices as two of the biggest, like, let's say, holidays every year. So a lot of people, when they do magic, it's pretty common to work with the cycles of the moon, because you have a full moon every month, you have a new moon every month, and the moon is considered somewhat of a beacon, right? Because it's right here with us, orbiting us, and it can sort of reflect our magic out into the rest of the, reality, the universe. And so a lot of people use the moon to time magic. So a lot of people, when they're trying to do a ritual to get something, will do it when the moon is getting bigger. So they'll do it between the new moon and the full moon. And then when people are trying to shrink something, they'll often time their magic to be doing it between the full moon and the new moon. Also, any collective magic is often done at the full moon, and manifestation magic is really powerful at the new moon, of course. Um, so using the moon cycle is pretty common in magic, but what gets talked about less that I think could be talked about more, so I'm talking about it here, is using the sun in the same way. I think that it's less convenient because it only happens once a year, each solstice. So maybe that's why it's less, often talked about. But I do see it as a major holiday and a major time to be thinking about, on the 6 month scale. So I think of it on the 6 month scale. So in at the solstice of the summer, I'm often thinking about what do I want to shed, and the summer's a really good time to be shedding things because we tend to things get busy and hectic and crazy, and it's our natural inclination as people is to just be doing more, be more up and more out and more active in the summer, which makes sense because there's more light. We have more hours. I mean, trying to get my kids to go to bed at a reasonable hour in the summer here when it gets dark at like 9 o'clock is actually really challenging. Um, so, everybody's just got more energy. We're often like eating less and doing more. That's a great time to be thinking about what do we want to let go of? Because our inclination is to take on a lot in the summer and try to do everything and try to fit everything in, especially if you live somewhere where the climate changes a lot. I realize some of you might live in places where the climate doesn't change that much. But what I've found is that people that I know that live in those kinds of places still feel the shifting energies of these seasons, even if the weather is only making a subtle change. So, it's just more active in the summer. And so this is my recommendation. And I'll talk more about what that can look like. And then at the winter solstice, thinking about what are we building? As the sun is growing over the next 6 months, what are we building? What are we creating on this sort of 6 month timeline? So, the working with the sun in this way is incredibly powerful. And again, it's a 6 month timeline. So I'm not thinking like, what am I shedding in the next, month, weeks, days? I'm thinking, what am I shedding over the next 6 months? Um, so thinking more long term, and you can think in terms of ways of being, you can think in terms of habits, you can think of literal physical things. What are we letting go of? Some things take time to let go of, and I actually want to recommend doing being more modest in your workings. Something that has been coming through for me a lot in the programs I've been teaching and the people that I've been working with lately is that we often take on a lot. We bite off more than we can chew, or more than we are ready to chew. And because we see the vision, we have an idea in mind for what we want and where we want to be, but especially when you're thinking in a 6 month timeline, it's so helpful to think about what is actually the next step. Like, when we're thinking in terms of 6 months, it's easy to misalign how long things take. There's actually, there's this idea that we talk about in my Saturn course where we underestimate what we can do in 15 minutes. Because 15 minutes of focused work, you can get so much more done than you realize. We overestimate what we can do in a day or a week. And then we often way underestimate what we can do over, years. So we it's tricky to calibrate, but thinking of making intentions that are more modest, it really helps with this like manifestation growth process that we're all kind of on, because truly when we are always just shooting for like the end goal, the end state, um we can get stuck, we can get lost on the journey. Um, we want to really like lay out a map for ourselves that, and sometimes we don't know the whole picture. We can't see the whole picture. Um, we have to have that time to take the next step and then reassess. And sometimes we don't want to do that. We want to like plan everything out. We want to feel like we know everything. Um, and I've been thinking about lightning a lot. And this is more like a Jupiter themed idea, obviously, because it's lightning, but it's really powerful how so lightning always takes the fastest route, but we're also taught that the fastest route is a straight line, but lightning does not move in a straight line. And there's something really fascinating about this, and my husband can actually explain it because he is a plasma scientist, plasma engineer. But something about so like it at every moment it chooses like the next best jump that it can make, and it doesn't produce a straight line. So I just it is the fastest route. It is always the fastest route. The lightning will always take the fastest route. It has to. It's like the physical laws of nature. And yet, that route is not a straight line at all. It's sometimes very chaotic and kind of all over the place. And I just want to remind you of that as we're thinking about potentially making a 6 month goal. I also want to say, because I realized I just laid this whole thing out where I'm like, shed something at the summer solstice and manifest something at the winter solstice. You don't have to do it that way at all. The solstice is still an extremely powerful time to do magic and to do ritual with the sun. So you don't have to be shedding something. And even when you are shedding something, I also want to say, just like teaching you little things about magic here, you always want to state it in the positive. So, when we cast, when we do magic, when we're speaking reality into existence within a ritual or even outside of a ritual, we always want to frame our language in the positive. Okay, so I'm going to give an example here with energy and lack of energy, right? So I'm calling it energy and lethargy, and I've actually written out a little uh, thing here. So basically, there are multiple ways of framing things with any given thing, and you can write this out if you want to. But essentially, for whatever it is that what you're working with. So, what I've drawn here is we have energy on this side and we have lethargy on this side. Okay. And then we have positive, negative, or like plus, minus, or like to increase or decrease. So, for energy, we can have more energy, we can have less energy. For lethargy, we can have more lethargy or less lethargy. So these two things are opposites, right? At least for the example that I'm giving here. And so this is like the four things that you're working with. So more energy is the same as less lethargy, and less energy is the same as more lethargy. So these two things mean the same thing, but you can frame it in a way to work with the magic that is happening to capitalize on the current sort of magical paradigm that we're in. So if it's in those, if I'm working with energy, and energy is the thing that I'm trying to have more or probably more of, then at the solstice, I wanna say more at the summer solstice no, at the winter solstice, I wanna say more energy. At the, um at the summer solstice, I might say less lethargy, okay? So the thing that you're working with is changing based on where you are in the season. Um, so we're shrinking this thing, versus growing this thing. Now, be careful here though, because sometimes the way that we frame things, sometimes there is like an inherent truth where um, the lack of energy maybe isn't lethargy, maybe it's something else. And so you have to feel into like what is true about it when you frame it the opposite. How can you best apply it for the scenario that you're in? Um, I hope that this makes sense. So anyways, but you don't have to do that. It's not a rule. There's no rules. You're not going to mess it up. It's okay. Um, but it is, it is a great way of sort of capitalizing on the fact that the sun is the days are getting shorter and the time that we have each day with the sun is shrinking, is shortening. So, thinking about it like that is really powerful. And the way that I recommend working with the sun is, it is really powerful to really honor the sun by doing, sun salutations or just calling in the sun, reading poetry to the sun, working with the sun at sunrise, noon, and sunset. Those are really powerful times to work with the sun. And the thing is that I'm not one of those planetary magicians who looks up the planetary hour of planets ever. I've actually never once. I know most people do this, that, like so many people are really into this, and I get it. I have never once done a ritual timed, like on my own. I have with other people, timed with the planetary hour. I do not care. It does not make a difference. Like I never ever ever do that. Um but with the sun is just such a present force in our life. It is um it is so apparently present. It is so very unavoidably part of our everyday lived experience. Uh So much more so than the other planets, truly. I mean, obviously the moon, there is like do feel the cycles of the moon, but there is a deeply intense physicality to the sun. You know when the sun is out. You know when the sun is up. You know when the sun is down. We live our lives by the cycles of the sun, truly. And so with the sun especially, and something that I always try to do is think about, with the magic that I'm doing with any given planet, incorporating the elements of that planet, incorporating that, you know, the qualities of the planet so that the content matches the form as much as possible. We want to marry the content and the form. We want to marry the symbols and the representations with how we're doing the ritual. And some people do that by working at the planetary hour. Some people do that by wearing the planetary color, having corresponding things. And some people get really into the correspondences with like symbols and plants and metals and colors and timing and foods and just so many things that can be associated with each and every planet. Um, I don't go that far with the associations, honestly. Because to me, I think the power is in my intention, is in my symbols, is in my um, dedication to showing up and doing the work and letting myself change, like letting the magic be a transformational journey that I'm on. And so, what I recommend though with the sun, a powerful, powerful way to really like engage the correspondences, and I do it as in the way that I do the rituals. That's really where I bring in the correspondence, is in the way that I do the rituals. So, when I do a Jupiter ritual, I always make a big food offering. When I do a Saturn ritual, I've never given a food offering to Saturn, almost. I don't know, maybe I have, but like very rarely. Um with Venus, it's like making it beautiful. With Mercury, it's fast, it's playful, we're doing something different, we're fucking around. Um, with the sun, with Mars, we're very matter of fact. And um with the sun, I do think that sunrise, noon, and sunset are really powerful times to do that. And so, like, I have traveled to Maine and gone to the place where the sun first rises on America, and gone there for sunrise and done ritual there, and highly recommend. Okay? Highly, highly recommend. Extremely powerful magic. If you don't live in the Northeast, it's hard to do that, take a whole trip to Maine to do that. But, doing that on the summer solstice, I mean, that is some powerful shit, which I might be doing this year. So yeah, I just want to talk to you about the solstices and doing magic with the solstice, because this is because it's coming up. It's coming up. And I love the solstices. My husband's birthday is on the summer solstice. And uh as if I need more reasons to find him perfect and wonderful and adorable. And yeah, so I just want to encourage you to think a little bit ahead, and yeah, just like show up and do something big for the sun on the ritual. Do something big for the sun on the solstice, and have fun with it. And the sun's colors are yellow and orange, and um it can just be as simple, though, as just at noon honoring the sun, saying a prayer to the sun, thanking the sun. I mean, it literally gives us life. It gives us life. And even outside the context of magic, it is a powerful, powerful, powerful force in this world, and we exist at its leisure. So, thank you so much for watching this episode. And just another quick reminder that these episodes are going to start coming out every other week, every other Thursday. So, thank you for your understanding on that. I know some of you do listen every week, but I just got to slow down a little bit. So, got to honor my own pacing and uh, take it a little bit easier. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.